Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations podcast. On this week's episode, I am absolutely thrilled to have my good friend Björn as a guest on the show. Some of you might know him as Wraath, or Afgruntsprofet. He's been in tons of highly acclaimed black metal projects. He's an absolute workhorse when it comes to this genre, so we had a lot of really cool things that we discussed on the podcast, and I am actually very proud of how the conversation turned out. So I cannot wait for you all to hear that, and I hope that you will enjoy it. But before we continue, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you all for supporting the podcast, for all the shares, all your subscriptions, and most importantly, for all of you who took the time to actually send me messages and write feedback to me and just share with me your thoughts on what's been discussed on these last episodes, particularly since last week's episode with Darko from Anabolic Outlaw Coaching. I very much appreciate the feedback and any support that you guys put towards Iblis Manifestations. I'd also like to give a shout out to my very good friend Jackie from the podcast Into the Necrosphere. I very much appreciate it, brother. And I urge you all to go and listen to his podcast as well, if you haven't done so already. And now, without further ado, please welcome my good friend Björn to Iblis Manifestations. Enjoy the episode, people. So, first of all, I know that you've been a part of this whole music thing for a very long time. You've played in a lot of different bands. Just to make a quick summary of everything that you do, you're the vocalist in Darvaza, Fetus in Versa, you play bass in Mar, you play bass and vocals in Beyond Man, and you're also an ex-member of One Tail, One Head, Whoredom, Rife, and of course Celestial Bloodshed. Oh, and also you play guitars in Behexen, which is one of my fucking favorite bands, you know. So it's like, it is a real wonder to me how you have gone so long without any proper interviews, like at least in this kind of media format. So first of all, I actually wanted to say thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Yeah, no problem.
So how are you doing? What's that, sorry?
Forgot Ritual Death.
And Ritual Death, of course. See, you do too many, you see.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I know monogamy is not really your strongest suit when it comes to being a musician in bands. But just tell me, how are you doing at the moment?
Not great, but I'm just getting used to that.
Is that because you have to do the podcast or in general?
Both right now.
Okay. So is that like a double negative, so it works better?
Yeah, maybe that will be the solution. Sure. Maybe I'm better when everything is shit, then I'm perfect.
Well, I wanted to, obviously, I've just given a summary on what you do. The thing I'm very interested in at the moment is, like I said, this is sort of like the first proper interview that you have done. So I'm very interested in, obviously there's a lot of ground to cover, so I want to go back in time, and I want to go back to where this started for you and what sort of initially piqued your interest throughout your life to be basically doing what you are doing at the moment.
I don't know if I can pinpoint exactly how it got me into the. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just discovered music early on and just figured out that I wanted to do it in some sort of way, but I never had a plan. But then something happened the day I discovered like black metal. Then everything just like a switch, and from that on, it seems like every step I've taken has taken me exactly to where I am today.
Yeah, well, I know from my understanding, Guns N' Roses were actually the band that sort of piqued that initial interest and made the
Absolutely,
ignition, so to
absolutely.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started with I think what really started was the cassette cover of Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. When I saw that, I knew it like, okay, there's no return after this.
Hmm. And
And
what
then
year was this, if you don't mind me asking?
I have no idea. I just remember I sneaking down to my big brother's room and stealing the tape. I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. I don't know.
I see.
And then a few years later, I discovered Guns N' Roses, and then it was like Guns N' Roses was my whole life for my whole, like from I was 10 to I was 15 almost or something. And of course, during that time, I also discovered like harder bands and stuff. But yeah.
Well, what's your connection to that at the moment? You know, so obviously, because for me, the band that did that was Metallica. And obviously, when you initially start to get into all the heavier bands and stuff, you sort of abandon the first stuff at first, saying like, "Oh yeah, fuck those guys. They're the posers now. They can't play blast beats or whatever." But then eventually, as you get a little bit older, and then you sort of go around the circle, it's like, oh no, they're great. And then you revisit that, and then you have an appreciation for it again, but perhaps maybe even on a different level. At least that's how it worked for me. So would you maybe say you have the same thing with Guns N' Roses?
No, because I grew up in a very small place, and like we didn't have a music store, and I didn't have internet. I didn't have so like the input was you found like a magazine, and there you found Guns N' Roses. But I wasn't allowed to like Metallica because it was if you liked one, you couldn't like the other. So fuck Metallica. But I know Metallica is awesome, right?
Sure, yeah. Well,
So
that's well, you mentioned that. So tell me a little bit more. What was growing up like for you? What were the circumstances, and how much do you think it's shaped you into who you are now?
just a small place, small town here. Moved from Sweden to Norway, and when ended up in a small town, and it was like 3 or 4 people that was interested in music the way like we wanted to play music, and of course we were kind of the outcasts for a while, and yeah, just running around doing kid stuff. But some people want to go Pink Floyd, other want to go rock and roll. So it's a bit like that. The growing up was a completely normal, nothing special. I think the only thing I can say that I kind of looking back now and always know that I've been like the opposing force, always being the outsider, always feeling not part of the other people. But I couldn't put my finger on it back then, but I know it now.
But there's something really interesting there for me, which I suppose actually I can relate to as well. Obviously, I think the whole, I suppose, the outsider thing is quite evident, but it's not exactly. I hate to use the word, but it's not exactly because I look at you now, I look at what you do, I look at your work ethic and everything that you put into every single thing that you do, and it's not exactly because you have a lack of ambition or passion. It's quite the contrary. So where do you think that sort of difference comes in? Because a lot of times, especially when you look at people when they are younger, when they have difficulty fitting in, sometimes it's because maybe they're just kind of a loser, but you, or at least our breed of people, or a lot of people, I think, who do get into metal, it's sort of maybe a little bit the opposite of that. It's just simply is that we do not belong to the norm. And why do you think this is?
I think some people are just born with it. For me, it's definitely like always like struggling against something. I don't know what, but I just don't want to become them in a way. I don't want to follow their rules. I want to do what I want to do. And of course that has a price, but at least I don't end up in a situation where where it's gone so far that I can't like, if you take a step too far, then you involve too much people, or you've done something that your life choice is really like, you can't step out of it, out of responsibility, if you're an honorable man. And yeah, I mean, it's just some people are just born with that opposing thought, as I know that you know everything about.
Oh yeah, of course. That's why we're having this conversation. So when you say taking the path of responsibilities and stuff, are you specifically talking about, I don't know, getting married, having kids, going to work for a
Yeah,
bank?
I mean, if you step into that and you choose to have a child and a family, then you have to stand by that choice, right? Then you,
But I
because then
also
you
think,
involve other people, and you can't have. I don't think some people can, but I don't think it's possible to have both.
but I also think if you really think about it, because I wanted to actually point this out as well. As far as doing the lifestyle that we do and the responsibilities that we take on, I think it's a responsibility nevertheless. It's just our kind of it, So, for example, the amount of effort and energy and, funnily enough, commitment that goes into actually being in a band, or obviously 100 band in the case of yourself, that it still takes a lot of effort and energy, if not more, I would even say. Won't you
Yeah, for
agree?
sure. For sure. It empties you to a level that it's dangerous at some points. But it just, I really never sat down and had a plan. I acted on pure will and instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's like, yeah, it has a price, but at least I'm like, I'm trying harder, I'm trying more, I'm trying better. So I'm just always trying to go more. That's probably why I end up in so many projects, because other people have other obligations, but I have chosen to focus on this. And then when I get a break and I have all these creative people I know that asks me, hey, you want to do this? And what am I to say no when someone presents a great idea in front of me and I can feel my inside is like vibrating, like, yeah, let's fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then if they like don't have time for 3 months, am I just gonna sit and roll my thumb? No, then I can do something.
Sure, I understand.
I'm restless, I guess. I'm restless and I have a hard time saying no.
Well, the thing that I find absolutely fascinating with yourself, and I really want people to take a mental note of this as well, is that obviously it's not like, say, for example, as far as a music genre is concerned, pretty much most of what you do falls into a very similar category. Would you say that?
That's not for me to say, of course, because I don't want to play everything over and over again. I think it's huge differences. That's why I want to do it.
Sure. Well, I suppose looking from the outside is different from the inside. And obviously, I know where you are coming from. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is all a part of the same lifestyle. It's not like you play with one black metal band and then the next minute you go and play in some synthwave band or whatever.
No, of course. Of course, like that. Yeah.
And that's the point that's the point.
That's what attracts me. That's what fires my flame. Of course, I'm willing to try other stuff too, but it's like that's what gets me going. And if I don't do it, I go insane. And when I do it, it costs a lot. So it's like, it's a blessing and a curse.
Well, the thing that I'm trying to actually point at here, which I find very fascinating, is the fact that, I mean, you kind of answered the question that I was going to ask, actually, is that if you don't do it, it drives you insane. So it's almost that you are doing all of this and that the point I was trying to make was that this whole genre is your life, this underground way of being. It's not that you're doing it as a hobby or whatever. This is like your entire life. And the thing that I find is so commendable is the fact that you dedicate yourself wholeheartedly to every single project that you do, and that you give it absolutely everything. But from what I understand from your point of view as an artist, is that this is much more of a need than a want. Would you say that?
No, it's both. It's absolutely both. And the reason why I give it all is because that's the respect the art should have. Just go all in. And also, it's like putting a standard on stuff that if you're going to do something half-assed, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. I can completely get behind that. Yeah. So
I hope I can inspire people to give more.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this is an interesting area, specifically on the topic of black metal. I mean, I've said this on the last episode of the podcast. In some ways, I see the positive in people trying to sort of express their own identity, in finding themselves, finding who they are, because I think doing this is a really fucking good way of actually getting to know yourself better more than anything, and coming to terms with your own identity, whatever it is. You know, you might get dealt with a really shitty card once you express that identity, and then find out what it actually is.
Yeah.
You know? But it's nevertheless, it's something that you take pride in. You know, you embrace that. It's like, okay, right, this is what I am. Like you said yourself, the case of being somewhat of an outsider throughout life, which again, like I said, I can like very much relate to. You know, I've been personally speaking, I've been the black sheep of almost every
whole country.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah, black sheep of every situation I've been in. You know, like I didn't fit in when I was in Iran. I don't really feel like I fit in when I'm in the UK, and I don't even really feel like I always fit in the black metal scene, which is sort of where I'm supposed to be. But the thing that matters, I believe, is that I've come to terms with that identity. So I put myself across in the way that I need to. So I don't suppose I feel the need as much to fit in. You create your own world. You create your own reality.
Of course, yeah, but that should be the aim, right? To create your own world. Try to, yeah, because like when I'm out, I have like a normal day job, which I go to. Mm-hmm. And of course, I feel very outsider there, but I know that I am the problem, if you can say it like that. I understand that I'm not stupid. I understand that I am the problem. Then I need to work to take myself out of that situation. So that's what I'm always trying to aim to, step away from their world and try to build your own.
And I can very easily see that is in everything that you do. Obviously, you've got the DCD company, which I urge everyone to check out. I mean, you obviously do a series of crafting and different things like that there. So tell me a little bit more about that. Is that also another effort in basically creating your own world and reality? So you surround yourself basically with the things that you like and you actually give a fuck about.
Yes, that has become a priority the latest years, to try to get that to grow a bit, so I can try to make a living from that, and hopefully like music, and that I can combine that to make a reasonable living, at least, so I can hopefully step more away from the normal world.
So basically almost everything is an attempt to basically make you more independent to do this, which is to play music and be surrounded with leather and, you know.
Yes.
Bullshit. Yeah. Well, that's great, man. I mean, so obviously you have a lot of projects and stuff that we can talk about, but just as a point of curiosity as well, what sort of even got you into bikes and that whole culture that comes along with that? Because I think that's an interesting thing, like that's I think it goes very well hand in hand when it comes to black metal and things like that. And if you really observe rock and roll culture, I think it's a very crucial part of it in a sense. But also, you don't always necessarily see it either. So I just wanted to see, like, what initially brought your interest to that. Was that something that you always wanted to get into when you were younger, or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. For me, it's connected to metal, rock, and black metal, like cool bikes, like yeah, even like rock and roll. You see the old Hales Angels from the 70s, 60s, or 60s, 70s. But what really got me into it was my brother was a biker, with a really cool long fork chopper in the 90s. Of course, when I was a kid, then I discovered Guns N' Roses. I discovered Motley Crue. He came on the bike. Of course, that blows your mind when you're a kid. Sure. And even from there on, I just wanted to do it, but I never it took many years before I had the money to get the driver's license, and really, because when I get into something, I get fucking into it. So like when I finally had the money and I bought the bike and got the license, then it was like all in, and naturally it came doing the leather stuff. And then of course when I met my ex-wife, she was also into bikes and stuff, and she's very crafty, so she showed me how to do some crafts and inspired me to do the leather stuff, and inspired me to do many things. So they just kept on rolling on, and now I'm like also interested in like wrenching and knowing how things work, to fix my own shit when I'm out on the road, like be more independent.
Sure, of course. Well, how old were you when you got your first bike?
I was like, it's only like 7 years ago, so I was like 33 or 34 or something.
I thought you were going to say 18.
No. Who can afford a bike when you're 18?
Well, yeah,
no, I was really late. I was really late to, but it's like, yeah, there's a lot of years we were out playing with one tail. We come home, there's no money and no time, and just always going back and forth. Then we had a break, and then like, fuck, now I'm going to do the license thing, and yeah.
You just mentioned one tail, one head. So obviously I wasn't going to do this interview and not talk about that.
No, go for
it. So this band, I mean, I was very lucky to actually get to see you. Well, I actually saw the very last show that you performed in the UK back in, I'm going to say September 2018, I think. Either September or October, when you were doing the tour with Torque. And man, fucking what a band. I mean, that was one of them the band was almost like an entity of its own, and it was like a rare occasion where something between a group of people just happens well, it seems to be by total accident, that everything just seems to align, that this force of absolute fucking fire just comes out of nowhere, sort of. I feel similarly when I look at bands like In Solitude, where it's sort of like there's this sort of collective that just seems to be so into what they are doing, and it's almost like there's a timeless element to what is actually happening as far as culture and things like that are concerned, because there's such authenticity to it, but then there's also such energy and sheer force to the delivery of it. But unfortunately, the band is no longer around. So I don't think, as far as the public eye is concerned, anyone ever really got or saw any perfect explanation or as to why the band disintegrated. So I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit more insight to that.
Yeah, your description is pretty good. I also agree that One Tail was it's like a beast we didn't have control about that beast. And when we met, it was just that fire and force all in all the time. I mean, like, our rehearsals was as hard as the gigs. The only thing missing on the rehearsals was the makeup and the blood, but I promise you, every rehearsal was exactly the same as the gig. And that the only thing we did for years was just rehearse. So of course that fired up. When we went on stage, it was like, it's no problem, we got this. But yeah, it was its own beast, and it brought out like the very maximum of all the persons involved. It was for me, it started to be a very dangerous place, because I felt that I was starting to dance alone there a bit, feel that someone was backing off, and that was like, I don't want to carry this alone. I want to be as we always have been. So we just started going different directions, and it was me that in the end said that I need to step back, because we're going a direction I'm not sure about, and I am not willing to turn my back to the beast we have created out of my own safety.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean when you said, for example, people are backing off? Because it seemed that you were literally on a rise, and you got to the top. I mean, with the album that you released, Worlds Open, Worlds Collide. I mean, that is such a unique record, and it was really something. I remember when that came out, it was like, wow, they just crossed a whole new threshold of things here. And so I find it interesting that you say that it seemed to almost come to the peak of where it was, and then was it sort of like a make or break situation where you got that?
No, but it was more like, of course, we had a choice when that came out. Either we could, because we also understood that when that comes out, we have more opportunities, but we've been like working our asses off for years, and it was, I think everyone was just going different directions. We got tired, and we thought that, okay, let's do the album and just do like this to the industry. Like, you had your chance, we're leaving, goodbye. So it was a bit like we were going different directions. People want to do different stuff, tired, thinking differently, and the industry can go and fuck themselves because they had their chance.
You think, I mean, this might be something that might have been different in every member's mindset, but do you think there might have been some sort of maybe nervousness of like, what if this does take off? I mean, if anyone who's not familiar with the band, I'm sure most people who probably listen to this interview will be, but if anyone isn't, all you got to do is go and check out some of the fucking videos. I mean, just absolutely sheer insanity. I mean, the toll that must take, not just on you physically, but mentally, I dare even say spiritually, to put out that kind of explosive energy for such a long time and at so many shows. So the thing that people need to also keep in mind is that when a band gets big, then it's not that that's the end of everything. Now it just means that you have to keep doing what you're doing even more and more until the wheels fall off, you know. So do you think there were maybe a little bit of I don't know, perhaps like, is this the right band to get big with and then be touring the whole planet like for the years to come? Do you think that was really
I don't think that crossed anyone's mind.
So it was just a sheer devotion to basically what you were doing, and
but I think the most important that we were thinking differently where to take the band. And I said, it's okay, like I need to step down because I'm putting a lot into this, and I can feel it going in a direction. I'm not sure if I can join in that direction. The honest thing to say. And I said, but if you want to find another vocalist, I have no problem with that. And I will even help you until that point. But they all agreed that that wouldn't happen. So then we just, okay, let's fucking go out with a bang and do this. And then everyone can just shove it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a good reminder to everyone in the whole, not only business, but like audience and everything. Like, don't never say that, we'll catch them next time, or we do in your whole life. I'll do it tomorrow. Could be that the person or the persons or the band or whatever is tomorrow, it's gone.
So, you say that, and that touches me on one subject, right? Okay, I've never really spoken about this much before, but I have that situation with, of all the bands, it's not like they weren't playing enough fucking gigs, but I have that with Motorhead. And honestly, that is something that eats away at me. Like, I don't have many regrets in life, like there's like the odd few things here, it's like, oh, I didn't ask that girl's star sign after whatever, there's like a few little things here and there that don't really matter. But Motorhead is the biggest regret of my life, because I had the chance to see them, and I instead decided to spend the night with some chick who ended up not meaning much to me in the end. So yeah, I think there is a big lesson in that, because how many more times are you going to get another Lemmy, right?
Well, I know a guy that chose to go and eat a kebab instead of seeing Dissection when they play with Satirical and Darkthrone in the 90s. So think about that.
Did he make up for it when the Rebirth tour came around?
No, I think he was selling T-shirts at that time.
That guy needs to get his priorities sorted out, man.
Oh, yes.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I'd see, like, Dissection I can live with, because I wasn't even in the UK when any of those shows happened. I know they played in Bradford for like the last date of the Rebirth tour, which was back in, I think, end of 2004, if I'm correct. And Bradford is a proper shithole as well. It's like mini Pakistan. So it's so funny to think that Dissection did their last show there with, and I think Attila from Mayhem joined them on stage as well to do a cover of Elizabeth Bathory. So it's pretty fucking cool stuff. But back to the subject of One Tail, One Head. There is something quite symbolic and beautiful also, like you mentioned that obviously you want people to, as a reminder to people to basically check something out when it's there. There is a real beauty to that, and it's that time is relevant. Time is highly and extremely relevant, because everything has an expiration date on it. Sometimes we know it. Obviously, in your case, when you announced that, okay, this is your last chance to come and check us out, that was one that people were aware of, but sometimes you don't know it. So
yeah, but still, even we announced that, what a lot of people thought. They thought it was the typical trick, like, we're done, and then we're going to wait a few years and just charge more for gigs and come back. So I got a lot of those questions, and then in the end I had to say, like, am I known as the guy that doesn't stick to my guns or keep my word? We're done. It's not happening.
So, I already know the answer to this, but just to clarify, is this something that is done for good?
Yeah, never say never, but it's not like it's not any plan. Like, of course, if we sit on a gig sometime and people say, hey, you can come up and do a song, look over, I'll then not go and do it. But it's like, we're not sitting here planning a reunion tour. That will never happen. But if someone said, hey, can you come and play a song? Yeah, play one song. But it's not like we're sitting here planning that, this is the move to be swimming in stars again or whatever.
I mean, the trouble is as well, it was such a, like you said, it was like an accidental thing, you know, which made it such that band was such an organic sort of existence. So
Yeah,
that
it
you
was
can't
like
fake that shit.
everything we did was live. No,
Yeah,
everything, put in the hard work in the rehearsal room, went gigging like hell, and like all the songs kind of happened live. So yes, you said organic. It's like everything was from the ground up, rehearsal, gigs, and then go to studio. Not like sitting there sending files, making an album, and then go play. It was like everything happened live.
of course, and on the fly as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mm. Well, tell me a little bit, if you feel inclined, tell me a little bit about your time with Celestial Bloodshed, because that is a band that is obviously there's a whole history attached to it, of course, but that sort of seemed to be like your first proper endeavor where, as maybe presumably as a musician, you were sort of finding your own leg, but not just that, but also in the whole scene, because it felt like the band's existence was really making a statement as well. So obviously we'll get into the later side of things as well, but just tell me a little bit about what was your experience in Celestial.
Yeah, that's where I found like my heart and soul. That was my first step into this, and that also organic thing. It just happened. Me and the first guitarist sitting around listening to black metal. He wanted to start a band, found a drummer, and this like the same weekend that we started that band, I think I made the first demo. And I never made music before. Like I played in rock bands and stuff, but I never made music. But the second we started what became Celestial Bloodshed, just like the floodgates open. And then from there on, just step by step building up to what it became. So yeah, that's like my heart and soul is that band. But when in the beginning I didn't think about it like that. I was thinking about, okay, this is a band, let's make this happen, like make this, and for us like a collective, let's take this and put it out there and just see where it takes us.
But it had a very authentic sort of essence to the band. I mean, I remember seeing like some old pictures of it where it literally looked like you guys had just crawled out of a fucking grave, you know, and then got straight on the stage afterwards, you know, and it had a very special essence to it from at least what I could see, because I obviously never got to see the band live or anything like that, besides the odd obscure like videos and pictures that are online, and obviously the actual music that you released. Obviously, as everyone knows, there's the very unfortunate accident where your vocalist lost his life at a very young age at that too. Could you maybe just tell me a little bit of how that particular experience maybe has changed you and affected things for you basically, and if it made you have a different perspective on life in general afterwards?
Just it taught me to go all in and not like just do more, do harder, and live more because it can be over very quickly. I think it probably changed me more than I know myself, because maybe not many people know that, but I was the one that found him, so it really like changed my perspective that, okay, I'm not bullshitting anymore. I'm going to go all in. I have to choose. I'm going that way or that way. I'm going to go that way. and just just do it more, do it better, and also, of course, honor him in most of the things I do.
I mean, I can only imagine, and I really appreciate what you just shared there, by the way, but I can only imagine how tough it must have been, because when you're at that sort of young age, and then you're just discovering this thing, and I mean, with black metal especially, there's this whole sort of almost, for lack of a better word, juvenile approach to stuff, where it's like, well, fuck it, fuck this, fuck that. And that seems to work really well for most things, until something very real like that happens. So I can only imagine that how much that must have been to take
we
on.
weren't that young and we weren't that juvenile. We were like, everyone was 100% in on everything. Like me, a lot of the thing, like, in order to get inspiration, you do stuff so that you push limits. You go and do shit just to get inspiration, and then shit happens. But that kind of shit is a bit extreme, of course, but it's like, we weren't so juvenile. We weren't like, fuck this, fuck that, but very extreme circumstances in many ways. So,
Well, I
but
suppose
we were
that's the
100% dedicated to everything we did, and we knew we were going down a very dark path. I was certainly aware of it. I could feel it boiling, like something is going on. Yeah.
There is something interesting that happens when you perform music, and especially when you sort of find that connection with the people that you're sharing the music that you're playing with. And we used to call it the fifth element, because there used to be four of us in the band before, and we used to always say that, right, we're playing, but then there's something else here. There's something, you can't see it, you can't hear it, but you can feel it. And it is something that comes alive when all the amps are plugged in and everyone starts playing. And then it's almost like there's an extra temperature, but there's no reason for it to be there scientifically, but somehow it's there. Would you say it's that kind of a phenomenon?
Yeah, something like that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's quite hard to explain it, isn't it? But it's just one of
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, when I step into that atmosphere, it's especially on stage, it's like you try to leave everything behind. It's like, it's a very dangerous place, but also very familiar, and yeah.
Well, I'll ask you this, because obviously, I mean, as in the context of black metal, personally, I believe that's the only way of doing it. So when it comes to elitism, my elitism is not even so much on what it sounds like, although of course that matters, but what matters to me is to be able to recognize that kind of approach. So I was just wondering, where did you sort of get the inspiration? Was there like a particular band or anyone that influenced you that, okay, we're playing music, but we're going to do it like this, where it's so much more, and we're actually going to try and explore these paths?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just going up there and just going at it, and then recognizing other bands that, I can see the same flame over there. That inspires me, but it's not like that band inspired me to move like this or sing like this. It's more like that their output, their fire inspires me to go at it harder.
Of course. Well,
yeah.
Would you care to name some of those bands that you feel similarly
back in
about?
the day, there were not much bands that had that fire going on. But what would you say today? I would say Marduk absolutely has it. Like Dissection early on had it. Watain definitely have it. Other bands, yeah. I mean, now blocked. But
seems to be something that perhaps might be running in the Swedish soil then, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
fucked
they
up
have
must
just a
have
different
happened there
approach.
years
I don't know
ago.
if they have more. They have more metal in their black metal. At least they started early on. That they had that, but the Norwegians had more standing still. I like the more moving around.
Sure, yeah. I think I'm of the same school, that's for sure. Well, one thing that I wanted to talk to you about as well was that obviously um, you're also playing in Ritual Death, which
Yeah,
I was actually very lucky to come and actually watch the rehearsals of the band. I feel like I must be one of a handful of people on the fucking planet who's had the privilege to do that shit. So um, I think one of the things that I find very interesting about it, and it's to me that's another staple of you being dedicated to the art is the the simplicity of the music and what you do with that band. Because first of all, I know you're actually a fantastic guitar player, yet there's no ego involved when you're making the music of Ritual Death, because what it appears to me is that it's black metal for what it should be. There's nothing flashy. It is pure atmosphere. I mean, the title track, for example, like the riff at the end of that, it's like you don't get simpler than that. But as far as the richness of the atmosphere goes, it's hard to find anything that feels quite as dense and as rich as that also. So tell me a little bit about your approach and your experience with that band in particular as well, because I find that very fascinating.
yeah, that was started by me and the drummer because we were just waiting for other bands to rehearse, and we like it didn't happen. So we're like, okay, let's just dial it back. And like he's usually a guitarist in Mare, so not he's a good drummer now. When we started, he wasn't the greatest drummer, but we went on pure impulse. Like I have 3 riffs, simple. We dial it down, take it back, use some synthesizers, and just focus on atmosphere and like almost this caveman way of thinking. When it comes to like lyrics, it's goat, altar, sacrifice. How simple can you get it? That simple. So yeah, just like painting atmosphere with words and sounds.
That's a really cool way of putting it, actually.
Yeah.
So how's the? Well, obviously the band has already made a pretty big name for itself just based on like the small releases you've done here and there. But now you're actually recording a full length album. So tell me, how's that going?
It's done. Doing
Oh, you finished
the
it.
last,
Okay, cool.
yeah, doing the last vocals on Friday, and then it's mixing and mastering.
And what can people expect to hear from that?
Very dark, very dark, but also plenty of surprises, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know for a fact that you're messing around with a lot of like really interesting and also quite I should say innovative like little effects here and there as well, which you wouldn't expect to hear, but you're actually going to implement this live as well, correct?
Yeah, because we also record live, like the drummer and me, guitars and drums, and then so we always try. I always try to do that. Same with Celestial Bloodshed. We recorded as much as we could live, like drums, guitar, and bass and vocals when we could, but not always. In Ritual Death, we're only 2 when recording. So, or yeah, we're synthesizers too, of course, but yeah, we try to do as much as we can in the same room just to get that feeling we have in the rehearsal room, because we don't want to have this stiff. That's also why we can have a problem with some small details that goes wrong, but we just take it because that's how it is in the, when you're standing around playing.
Well, Watain just recorded their last album live as well, and you can definitely hear that. I think
I
there
heard
is
that.
something to it. That there is something
It
to
definitely
it.
is. It definitely is. It creates a different atmosphere because I mean, all those evenings standing in the rehearsal room, and you get this special feeling, and you can feel it. Feel everything is mixing in perfectly, and then you go to a studio and you're like, guitar, drums. It's like you can easily lose something there. I think, especially like not all bands, of course. Everyone has their own way of doing it, but Ritual Death, I think that would be very stiff and very weird if we try to do it that way. But also because I hook up 3 amplifiers at the same time to get a special certain sound. So
yeah. And it's a really cool fucking sound as well. I bet that must be satisfying. You know, I mean, you're playing drop C tuning as well, so you're already creating the opportunity to basically play a wall of sound. So this is perhaps another thing as well. You know, you don't need to play like super technical riffs and stuff like that to make it interesting. All you need is just a just a little bit of that, and then it's like you feel the movement and the tension.
Yeah, and it's a focus on the small details, like the little small where you put in if you go straight forwards, you just put in one little marking and then remember that in the songs you sit and waiting for it, that that's the hook.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mentioned I said this to you before when we were talking about it, but like you've got the song Ritual Death, and then at the end where that riff is playing, there's this really subtle kind of like a choir that comes in. It's just one single note, and the effect that makes, it makes the song so much creepier, but also so much like, oh yeah, something fucking horrible is happening here. You know?
The same with Ritual Death has also grown into its own entity, because I remember me and the drummer was going to play with Whoredom Rife somewhere, and we were sitting in a car and we just going to the gig somewhere in Germany, and we put it on. And I think it wasn't until that moment we just looked at each other like, this is really fucking dark. What the hell are we touching here? And I don't know. So it's like we created something that's starting to live its own life. So.
And it's interesting. Didn't you say someone from Hawaii actually flew over to catch you at one of the shows?
Yeah, he flew over to Trondheim because he wanted to see it. So that's an honor.
That's a long ass trip, man. I flew from Manchester, and I was like, oh fuck, you know, you got to fly between Oslo and Trondheim, you know, and that's already like an hour or whatever. I can only imagine what it must have been like from Hawaii.
Yeah.
He'd have had a better chance of digging a hole through the ground and getting to you that way.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
You know, no, but that's fucking great, man. You know, and obviously, so people can keep an ear out for that album. Do you have a time frame of when that might be coming out?
No, I haven't. Hope probably after the summer. We hope to do some gigs when it comes out, but who knows how everything is now. But I'm suspecting autumn maybe.
Oh, so you're actually expecting it to come out this year then? So
I'm really hoping. That's good. Label stuff. I don't know how it works. I'm not the best with that, but I will talk to them once after this weekend. We're also doing. I'm going to try to do a picture that will maybe rise some eyebrows.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I don't even want to ask any further. I think that's the perfect point to just like leave that there, and it's like, okay, just expect some dodgy photo coming up like in the next few weeks. That's great, man. Great to hear that the band's progressing. I really just from like a personal thing, I wanted to also go over Behexen with you as well. Because obviously, as I mentioned to you, that was there's a thing. I never told you this when I was over there, but there's actually a video of me listening to Behexen, Born in the Serpent of Abyss, second track from My Soul for Its Glory. And obviously this has never been published. I think I was 15 and I'm still in Iran when this video was recorded. And there's a very good fucking reason why it's not been posted anywhere, but I might share it with you at some point. And I've been like it's that's one of them bands for me that just like it does everything right, and And obviously you joined them back in 2009, was it correct?
Yeah, it was after, of course, after Celestial Bloodshed was put to the grave. They asked me to join, and yeah, I was honored too, because yeah, I am still a huge fan of everything they've done. My Soul for His Glory, I think it's one of the best black metal albums that ever came out. So yeah, it was.
I would probably agree. Yeah, for sure. Just like I mean, it's the full thing, man. You know, was it Demonic Flesh Temple?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking
yeah, and also the title track too, and the opening track, and also the fact that the vocalist chose to change his vocals to sing with more natural voice, and that's perfect. And
yeah. I mean, perhaps this might be worth being a conversation to have with him specifically, but the vocals on By the Blessings are fucking great, but then you get to My Soul for His Glory, and that was a pretty fucking unique thing at the time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it opened like sort of like the floodgates for, I think, the style and the genre for everyone to be like, oh, okay, we can do it like that too.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Absolutely. So what was your sort of, this is the thing I wanted to get into. What was your sort of relationship with the band? You know, how did that come about? And obviously you said that you were already a fan when they asked you. Well, a fan, you know, but like you liked the music and you dug what they did already when they asked you. So how did that even come about?
I met them on the only tour that Celestial Bloodshed did. They were playing with Sargeist, most of them. Or all of them. So we became really good friends on that tour. With that's my connection to Finland. That we met on that tour, like Sargeist and Baptism. I met all the Finnish guys there, and we became really good friends during that 10 days. I think we were on the tour bus. So after that, we just stayed in touch, and then they were playing in Bergen. I think we were playing Bergen. And the first time I saw them after the tour and after we lost Steingrim and stuff. So yeah, we just met in the hotel room, had a long chat. And then I think it was, I don't remember if it was in Bergen or it was later in Helsinki. I got the word that they needed to talk to me, and it sounded really fucking strict. So I was like, okay. Yeah, and they asked me because they parted ways with their guitarist that they had at that point. So they asked if I was willing to do the traveling and come over and contribute. And I was like, for sure, if it works for you, I will be there. And after that, we keep on doing it.
Of course. And how's the band doing now? I mean, are there any upcoming plans, any shows, any maybe potential albums? Because I know the last album was fucking awesome, man. You know, I tell you, I had a photo shoot with my old band. I'm no longer with them, but with the Master Skull back in, I think, October 2016. I'm usually pretty good with dates, so I'm pretty sure that's when it was. And I think that wasn't long after The Poisonous Path will have come out, will it? It's roughly around that time frame, I think.
Could be. It's a bit because around Poisonous Path, the recording, everything is very blurry to me because it was at the same time as Nidrusian, the last Nidrusian Black Mass. And I had so much to do. I think I had like 4 or 5 bands to rehearse for the gig, and then I had to prepare to go to studio in Finland for that. So it's like everything's a big whirl chaos around that time. I'm a bit unsure, but I think it's 2016, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so, I remember it very, very clearly because I remember my friend John Wilcox, he came up to me, he's the guitarist in the band, and he was like, oh, you have to fucking listen to this album. I was like, oh yeah, cool, you know, I'd love to, you know, and then we had it playing during that photo shoot, and I think it hadn't been long since it had been released, you know, so I've got like a very clear memory of listening to the album then. So yeah, did you say you have any plans coming up?
Yeah, there's no. I don't think any gigs are booked, but actually, we are working on new album, but it's going pretty slow because of COVID and also some situations with traveling, other stuff too. But yeah, we are working on new material.
We were supposed to fucking play together as well, and I'm so pissed off that that show got canceled. I mean, I know it got moved like 3 or 4 times, and then eventually it was like, yeah, I don't think this is happening.
Yeah, no,
that would have been good, man. Obviously, yourself and I are still going to be playing together. So let's come to the present.
Yeah,
you know, since we've mentioned that, you've got as you can see, I've got the sponsorship for the podcast here, you know.
You put
So,
that in panic before you called me.
Yeah. No, that has been there since last year, since the album came out. So tell me about for everyone listening, they're probably like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? Tell me about Beyond Man, this new and quite explosive endeavor that you've got going as a band.
The thing is, it's not so new. It's actually before One Tail. That's how
you revived the project, didn't you? Just like out of nowhere.
Because we were like doing it, and we recorded a demo back in 2007 or 8 or something, and the drummer in Beyond Man was a drummer in One Tail, and he's actually the guy that got me to stand in front of a microphone. So if you don't like it, take it up with him. So yeah, we put down Beyond Man because people got busy, and me and him got busy with One Tail, and just thing lingered out in nothing. But we always been talking about that demo, and for a long time it disappeared. We didn't know who had the recording. It was like a 7-track recording, so we could mix it and make it cool, but nobody could find it.
Right, I see.
But then one day, I think it was the old guitarist, he said, I have it, I can mix it. And so I was away, I was stuck in Canada at that time, but they had met up and said that, let's try to rehearse and just see how it feels. So they started rehearsing the old songs, and they sent me recordings, and it goes well. So but I didn't want to promise anything until I was back home and played with them. Then we stepped into the rehearsal room, and it's like after 2 songs, it's like being back in 2008. I'm like, there's no doubt. Let's just do this. At least let re-record the old stuff because it deserves a proper recording. But then the guitarist has like tons of riffs laying around since 2008. So he's like, but we can make 2 more songs. Yeah, okay, well, let's try it. And everything just fell into place. So we just, there too, a natural progression to just, here we are. Now we're already working on our album number 2.
I mean, it seemed to happen so quickly, just even with the first one, because I remember you posting a video of the first rehearsal or one of the rehearsals, and we were talking about it, that you've got this project that you've just brought back into life. And then literally within no time, when we were speaking again, you were like, oh yeah, the album is already finished. We've recorded
it went so smooth that I almost got skeptical, like something has to be wrong. But no, it just, because the old songs was like, they were still in our spine. We could play them without thinking almost. So
I mean, it's a really cool record, you know, and I'm not just saying that. Like, the style is sort of it's pretty much perfect, you know, because if you think, it's like you've got like the little Black Sabbath tritony little bits, but then you've got some like very clear, like sort of Morbid Angel kind of influences here and there as well, you know. So it's kind of like it's the mix of everything that's good that you would maybe not necessarily think would go together.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing it live as well. Obviously, we've got a little tour coming up together in, holy shit, man, it's not long. It's only like 2 months from now.
I know. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, we really want to get on stage. We're supposed to play Belgium, but it got canceled. And we really want to get out there and just crush.
I'm looking forward to it. You know, I think the energy will be fucking great. I mean, to anyone listening this, if you are in the UK, Trivex and Beyond Man are touring together alongside Vortex event. They're absent in this conversation right now, but it's a killer fucking lineup. We're playing sort of the important places in the UK. So if you're from the unimportant places, you're still more than welcome to travel across. And this is happening early June. And anyone else from anywhere else in the world who wants to see this insane package, get in touch with
it's gonna be pretty
Anna
intense.
Dagmar.
That's 3 intense bands in one night.
I know, right? Like, it would have been less threatening if you had a Muslim guy having a bomb strapped to his chest show up at the show, you know?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, yeah. So, see, I get away with making jokes like that.
I know you can do this.
See, yeah. Are you jealous yet?
Yeah, I'm getting there, but I'm still welcoming my country, so it's okay.
Okay, all right. Well, excellent. That's fucking great, man. I was gonna ask you something. Yes. So with the Beyond Man, obviously you said that there's gonna be a second album now as well, correct?
Yeah, we're working on it right now. We have, I think, already 3 songs. But I've been busy with the Ritual Death album, so I kind of stayed away a bit because Ritual Death album emptied me pretty hard. So I needed to step back and just focus on that and take a little break. So.
Well, we mentioned the tour and everything like that. Let's actually talk about the first night you and I actually met properly. So back in, obviously we'd crossed paths before, but the very proper thing of that was the infamous Darvaza show in London at the Black Heart on the 29th of February 2020. So ironically enough, there was a festival happening there, which we can get into more details about, but the festival was called Black Death Plague Fest. Is that correct?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. It doesn't really matter because obviously everyone thinks that people don't have very high opinions of the festival or the promoter of it. But basically what was happening was that Darwaza was playing that show as a part of like a lot of other really good bands as well. But then the show sort of fell apart. So tell me, what was your experience of that actually? Like what was even... what went wrong? When did you know that is this show maybe not happening or something?
Fucking crazy because I have gotten the plane tickets there and I had to go to London no matter what because I was flying to Canada afterwards to my at that time wife. So, but I was flying like 6 in the morning or something. I don't remember. Early next morning, I think, and then. I think 9 o'clock in the evening, I get the word that the whole festival is canceled. I was like packing my bags and then just, no, it's canceled. It's not happening. And I was like, what? What the fuck? How about hotel? How about what's going on? And like, there's no info. Nobody knew, but your flight tickets is still valid. Okay, I have to fly anyway. So I was keep on packing. And then I talked to Anna Dagmar, our good friend. And I said, they fucking canceled the festival. Like, nobody knows anything, but we know it's canceled. And she got like, what the fuck? Give me 1 hour. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give you an hour. 1 hour later, she's like, I have fixed a new gig. Just come. Yeah, she fixed everything. Amazing. I was like, what, really? Okay, cool. So then the next day I get up and go, and then first plane delayed. And I land somewhere in Europe, and like second plane delayed. So I'm like closing into gig. And then also in this, I get the word that the bassist from Darwaza can't make it because they got the first COVID lockdown. So we're playing without the bassist. So everything is just, it's boiling chaos everywhere. And I get to London, and then someone's picking me up, and he was late or something. So, okay, I still have a few hours before I have to be on stage. So I have to go to the room I rented somewhere, and he drives me, and then he's like, I need to stop. I need to go to the toilet now. I'm like, okay. So he stopped somewhere and just ran out. And then when I'm sitting there, someone backs into the car. So I'm like, seriously, come on.
You can't make that shit up, man.
No, it's amazing. So, but I made it. I got into the backstage 10 minutes before we're going on stage.
Yeah.
And
you fucking played your asses off as well. It's
but that's what we do, especially in that situation.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember that I think I was doing a night shift the night before, so I must have been awake till like 6 or 7 in the morning. And I went to sleep, woke up at 11 o'clock, and then looked at some messages, and I was talking to Sully, our bass player, and then was like, okay, yeah, we might be playing this show with Darvaza tonight at the Black Heart. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Right. Just let me know what happens. Yeah. And then by 1 o'clock, we had to leave here. And then this was the thing as well. It's like, oh yeah, can you guys provide backline? It's like, yeah, I guess we can. And then it was like from like the north of the country, we had to basically bring down a whole fucking backline and everything like that, and within like few hours, had to get to London. Then we had to set up, because every other band was like using the shit as well. It was just fucking crazy, man, but what a show. What a show that was.
But also
I'm so glad that it happened.
Yeah, and it's also like shows the strength of the dedicated people that, okay, now we come together and just make it fucking happen.
100%.
That's how it should be. Like, it's really, really cool. And also from that, we have birthed this friendship. You and me have met now, and so yeah, it's just one more puzzle in the play.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, I'm so glad that those events occurred in the way that it did. It was a very, very perfect example of passion prevails. If you truly love doing something, and if you've got different people who are on the same page, doesn't matter how impossible the circumstances might seem at the time, you say you want to do it, you don't give up, and then you get results. And I believe that, I remember you turned to me on that night and you were like, I'm glad the festival fell apart. I'm glad that didn't happen, because now we have this.
Yeah. And also like all respect to Anna that made that happen. And also like everyone with a festival ticket come in, just make a contribution. And it's like, that's fucking honorable to do.
Yeah. That shows something as well that you will only get in this sort of I hate the use of the term scene, because it also involves a lot of shit as well. But in this particular case, this is only something that I think you will see in a situation like this. I don't imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see anyone pushing so hard to, for example, make just a random hip-hop show happen. It's only with this, I think, because I think we know we're the outsiders, and no one else is going to do it for us. In any situation in life, no one's going to live life for you, so you got to fucking take it by the reins and do it for yourself. And I think this whole event was a perfect example of that, and that's actually the main reason why I bring it up, besides the fact that it's a fucking cool story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Although I think some hip-hoppers would probably have done the same.
Probably, yeah. I'm not saying they wouldn't have done, just making a case, because, let's face it, what we do, even though it's become very popular, there's a lot of people into it, it's still not the perfect norm. It's not what everyone has access to. So, it is one of them things. So, obviously, as someone who is so passionate about shows, and obviously like performing live shows is such a big part of your life. Tell me a little bit, because obviously after we played the Darvaza show in 29th of February, that was just at the peak of the pandemic and when things were kind of going tits up all across the world. So how did you cope with that? How did things go for you? And I mean, you went a very long time before you played any other shows, and that had been such a sort of like a medium in your life that presumably it helped sort of balance things out. So how did you cope with that throughout the pandemic?
Yeah, not very good, I think. But I think it took a long time before I noticed how bad it actually was. I think I'm noticing even more now. Yeah, it's like everything I worked for is kind of taken away. Everything I love is taken away from me during this pandemic. But I thought I was doing pretty good, but I don't think I am any longer. It's like little by little stuff has been taken away, and I haven't noticed until, yeah, it's been a bit too late, maybe. I don't know. There's, of course, more factors to this, but yeah, it used to be a very good balance with everything. I had everything balanced out pretty good, and suddenly, little by little, it's been taken away. And yeah, it's I've been driving up the walls sometimes, going crazy and asking the biggest questions you can ask yourself in life. And yeah, it's been pretty bad, I will say.
Well, when you say, for example, that this is even more recently, I mean, most bands have been playing shows freely since at least midway through last year. So, in what sense is this sort of prolonged for you? Do you have some of the experiences that you had throughout this lockdown? Have they sort of had a more of a roll-on effect onto now, or is it anything specific?
Yeah, I think it's just been boiling up. It's just been coming, and like more stuff, other stuff in my life has happened, and it just gathered up in a big pile of shit. And yeah, just trying to find ways to cope with it. Maybe sometimes not coping with it so very well, and yeah, you got restless too, and yeah, just start asking yourself a lot of big questions.
What kind of questions, if you don't mind
Yeah,
sharing?
no, like existential questions and what the fuck are you
Right.
doing questions. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see.
And how easily stuff can be taken away from you and without your control. And yeah, just annoying, like get more and more pissed off.
Is it sort of like also a question of control as well, and how much you are really in control of your life, or perhaps
Yeah,
something like that?
probably. Yeah, like it turns into this huge question, especially when stuff are taken away from you, and like everything you had in your balance. Like if there are three things in your balance and two are taken away, then suddenly the scale tips.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, now I've been climbing the walls at times, and yeah, probably more. It went into me even more than I thought, but yeah,
But one of the
no
things that,
outlet.
yeah, outlet is the word, man. I mean, one of the things that I personally kind of found throughout the whole thing. I mean, most people might not even realize this, but I pretty much feel like I had an identity shift throughout this period. Um, Obviously, there's there's certain positive elements to that, which I am very grateful for, because it stopped me from being comfortable in my own methods of doing things. Because I think one of the things that makes this kind of music really special is I briefly touched upon this on the last episode, but one of the things that I find is so fucking great about this music is that when you're dealing with energies, you can, for example, have a negative experience. This experience could be anywhere. You could be at a fucking supermarket, and you have a negative experience with someone where someone cuts you off or someone does something or looks funny at you and that pisses you off. I feel that with us kind of artists, the way we sometimes deal with that is you look at that experience and rather than respond to it accordingly on the spot, you take it in and you're like, okay, I will show you. And then you will bring that into the art and the music. And then it's just like, straight there, or you wait until the next time you go on stage. It's like, okay, you just pissed me off now. I'm going to hold on to this feeling. And then now you envision the next time you're going to be on stage, because that is going to be the time that frustration is just going to be shot out into the world and into the audience. How much do you think that is something you can relate to, and perhaps the lack thereof, such a thing, is perhaps what might have made this time of sort of isolation from the stage difficult?
Yeah, and that's probably one of the things. Like I thought I was doing, like keeping busy and all good, but remember, I'm used to being on the move. Like there are times where I'm out every weekend doing something, not also meeting friends around the world, and going doing gigs and getting the energy out. And and maybe I've been taking too easy to it. I'm so used to it that when it was taken away, I was like, okay, take a break, do other stuff. But suddenly you notice this itching and you're like climbing walls. You're staying at home and like, the fuck, staying home? I'm used to being on the move.
So, and another thing to keep in mind that's also important is that, and this is a thing, I was actually thinking about this earlier today, where you live in Trondheim, I mean, it's a fucking beautiful city. I'm so glad that I got to visit there. It's a very special place. But there's one thing that does stand out about it, and that is how quiet and sort of isolated it already is, let alone what it must have been like in a pandemic. So I can perhaps appreciate that. Obviously, I can honestly really appreciate the fact of being on the move, being on the go, and having all these experiences, like in the midst of all the noise and the chaos around tons of cool people, but then being able to walk away from that and then go into isolation. And there is something very inspiring about the contrast of those. But I can also imagine that if it's just one on its own, then that can probably become quite unhealthy. Would you agree?
Yeah, there we come with a balance again. You need both. And also, like, the music I play is made for live, and that live music inspires more music in a way. So yeah, like sitting at home and just making music, I don't know if I'm interested in that. Like, I need to let it out and see how, like, I love to test a new song live to see if it actually works. Does it feel right? Does it hook? Is the energy correct? So stuff like that.
But there's also an emotional aspect to it as well, isn't it? It's that once you get to play a show, I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into it, a lot more than meets the eye, at least until you've been through it yourself multiple times. And it's that obviously you yourself, when you're performing on stage, I remember that when I saw you live in person, I was like, there we go. That's someone who is going through the thing. He knows it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was based on just the sheer ferocity, but also the channeling of emotions. I know that's maybe not the most friendliest of words to use, at least in the context of black metal, but I think it is, and I've got no problem admitting that, at least on my part.
Same here. Same. Music is emotions, right? What else can it be? It's music and it's emotions and energy. And every time you push out, you leave a little bit of yourself and hopefully you get something back. But usually you just lose a little bit, piece by piece, you're disappearing.
But sometimes I also think that it's healthy because you keep in too much inside. That's why you need to go out and get it out there, so then you can then actually go home and be normal, almost.
Good luck.
Yeah, well, and there's another aspect to this as well, which is interesting, and that's how the relationship that this has with the ego, because I find that being an artist and a performer, especially in our sort of subculture that we have, it might very well be one of the most humbling things that you can experience. And why do I say this? Yes, you can get like the fanboys and stuff, and I know you have a few of them here in the UK, but the thing
I would never use that kind of expression on anyone, but
I know. But what I mean is, like, when someone comes up to you and then they're like, "Oh my God, please put your cock in my mouth." That's the kind of the interactions that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? The thing that
I haven't experienced that yet, but
I once had someone. I was playing in Banbury in Oxfordshire, and I played the show, and I came off stage. It was during Halloween 2017. In particular, and this girl or woman or whatever it was came up to me and said, "I want you to put your babies inside me." So I was like, okay,
Sully, come here, be a baby.
Nah, I was not ready for fatherhood just yet. But yes, this is the thing that I was getting into, is that from the outside, there's this whole thing of like you get put on the pedestal a little bit because of what you do. But I find the experience actually far more humbling, because when you're fresh to it, you kind of go up. So let's say in a hypothetical scenario, you perform a show, and then you really ascend. And then you get the positive feedback of all these people, and then they all come up to you afterwards and they're all like, oh, like fucking rabid dogs, or you hear a lot of really positive things, or those kind of comments, like the one I just made an example of. If you're not used to it and you hear something like that, you then kind of maybe start to believe it for a little bit. It's like, okay, all right, maybe, yeah, I'm king shit. Yeah, fuck you all. I'm the shit, right? But then
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. But the thing that I find quite beautiful about it is that your ego inflates, but once the experience is over, it crumbles down to absolutely nothing. Then you go from all the noise and being around cool people, and then you're back here and you're nobody. You walk on the street, you go to the supermarket, no one knows who the fuck you are. You're just an average person. And this, whilst it might be a little painful, I find is so necessary, because it's remember to be humble and remember who you are when you're going through these experiences and why you are doing what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So how do you feel, like, let's say, for example, like when I make the example of like the ego thing, you've been all around the world, you've played shows with so many different bands, a lot of cool people, you've gone through a lot, but what sort of helps this stay clear for you, so that the focus is the music itself, and let's say not the sort of the instant gratification of what you might have?
I don't know, actually. I'm just trying to kill the ego. Like, that's trying to keep that away from the whole thing. Of course, there will be people out there that now laughs and say, "Ha, you fucking rock star," and walking around being tough. But it's like, also remember that if you have 10 people coming to talk to you and you're number 11 and you just want to be alone, you're unlucky to be number 11, because then I say, fuck off, I don't have time, or I don't feel like this stupid question or whatever. And that has more like there's a limit to how much you can take during one evening. But I usually after a gig try to stay for myself at least until I've come back to this realm, to not be that bloated fucking ego guy. And try to take my time and say, hey, thank you, and
Well, I think one thing as well is that people don't always appreciate the difficulty that is, when you've just gone through that whole experience of, especially if you play shows as intensely as you fucking do, that's a lot to go through to then just come back out of it and then just be normal and sociable. Not saying it's impossible. Oh, absolutely, it's possible. But then to
but it's hard. It's hard, and I mean, I have breaking down on stage and off stage and start just crying and vomiting and just total breakdown. But then that's also for me, it's like a fight and something to build myself up again, and then build myself enough up to go out around people. But then I often want to stand in a corner alone, as long as there can be a lot of people, but I just want to be alone in the corner.
Mm-hmm. There's a really good saying I saw some years ago. I don't remember the exact quote, but it said something that an artist's desire to express himself or herself often comes from a combination of two things: the feeling of wanting to be heard and the feeling of wanting to be hidden. And it's these two constantly going up and down against each other throughout that sort of, I think, creates that expression.
Yeah, that's a good one. My bigger brother said that you're just a shitty little brother, you just want attention to standing and screaming. So maybe that's the same.
You know what? Sometimes that's
no, but it is something like and probably that I realized now during the pandemic that you want some confirmation of what you're doing, that you go on the stage and you like the confirmation, right? You want that boost of you're doing something right, but even you don't need it, and it's not that's not why you do it. I think that's one, if you go on a stage, you're a little bit that you want a little bit of confirmation.
I think the confirmation you probably want the most is probably when you're actually on stage, when you want people to lose their shit, when you want them to scream at you. Yeah. Because it's
so everything is also how the gigs go and where you're playing. I mean, there are some gigs that I know that tons of my friends are on that festival, and then it's of course easier to come off stage, come out of this blur and go out and meet like friends you haven't seen in years. But other gigs, you just want to fucking hide in a box and just shake.
And it's hard as well, because it's not like, obviously, for the people who attend the shows, generally, unless it's the case of the guy who flew from Hawaii, generally they don't have to go through as much shit to get to a show. But when you're actually in the band, to travel there, to go there with all the equipment, and if you've been playing shows for the nights prior to that, it's a pretty fucking straining thing. I mean, there's not many things like it that I think you can experience as a human being that are as difficult, really. Obviously, there are things, but generally speaking, because it's still a social occasion, I think it's a pretty extreme sort of build-up to even get there in the first place.
It's a special lifestyle, which is not for everyone. I think that's also why you should probably respect the bands that do it for a long time, because it is hard work and
for sure,
it takes a lot. And then I heard about people traveling, like driving a car for 13 hours, playing 40 minutes, and then 13 hours back. It's like, that it's soldiers, everything to deliver that one gig. So, but also I have found there was a period where I was traveling a lot, like I'm going to Finland to rehearse and then out playing, and I found a calm in that, just getting on the airplane, music, and then actually notebook, and just sitting there and trying to find the calm with all that. But of course, we always get the red eye up at 5 and fly there, and then wait for food and wait for drivers, and then now you have to be the best shape ever, and you have to be. It's like okay.
Yeah. It takes a special thing. But you mentioned the calm. I can relate to that too. Because I think some of the most chilled out, just most content moments in my life have been. I remember, I think, because we did the Darvaza show in February 29th, 2020, and then a week after that, we were doing a small headline UK tour ourselves. And when we were doing that, I remember, I didn't even know that the pandemic was happening. And I remember walking around one of these service stations at like 1 or 2 in the morning in my joggers and boots, and so fashion suicide already. But I just didn't give a fuck about anything, and it was beautiful. I still had like little bits of blood, little bits of paint. My voice was deep as fuck. I was, I hadn't eaten properly for a day, and I actually had COVID at that point and didn't even know. But
Yeah,
just walking around in that scenario, knowing that we had just played, knowing where I'd been, where I'd come from, all of the things I'd been through, I was just like, you know what? This is freedom.
yeah,
There's nothing that can take this away from me right now, because I literally feel like I am floating above the world, you know.
yeah,
And that's a special feeling. It's funny how much goes into it to make it happen, just so you feel those
yeah.
little things
It's
here and there.
insane if you start adding up all the hours in the rehearsal room just to play for 30
Yeah,
minutes.
that's
But
right.
yeah, it's like yeah, it's freedom and it's your own creation. But like my brothers too, why are you doing this? How do you have the energy? And like, to be honest, I don't know. I just know I have to do it, or else it snaps.
Yeah. Well, whilst we're on that, just to sort of like round things a little bit as well. Obviously, with all the traveling, with all of the shows, with everything that you do, even if it's just a project where you release an album, with everything that you do with bikes, just everything. What would you want people to remember you for?
Remember me? I'm like my ego. I don't care. I don't care about this. They have to remember me. Just I don't know, inspire them to do more and do it better.
So,
And
as
yeah,
far as your legacy goes, you want that to be something that people look at and think, okay, I got to
yeah,
I got to do more now, basically. So it serves as an inspiration. Always defy, never retreat. That's right. Cool, man. Well, Bjorn, I really fucking appreciate you doing the chat with me tonight, man. And yeah, I very much look forward to all of the projects you got coming up, everything you're going to release. Um, and I very much look forward to the fucking tour we're gonna play together in
yeah.
2 months, and I think hell is gonna fucking break loose on that one. That's for sure, and that's only just the tip of the iceberg, I think. But yeah, I could sit down and talk to you fucking all day, man. But I know you're a busy person, and I appreciate you giving me your time as well, and actually allowing me to be the first person to actually conduct an interview with you in this format. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience, or anything you'd like to plug about what you do, what you got coming up at all, besides what I've mentioned?
No, I think you covered it. Most of it.
Most of it. You
Most
also
of it.
work with DCD as well, so people who are into their biker shit, or if they want anything leather designing or
Yeah,
custom made, even if not even biker related, if you want a guitar strap or like a belt or whatever, you're a
yeah.
pretty
Get in touch. We have some different shirts and stuff too, and more in the coming. So
yeah, you're
yeah,
you're a pretty crafty person, a man of many different talents. Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
No, you're doing a great job, man. Yeah, thanks again for being on the show. And thank you also to the audience for listening to the show. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Check out all of Bjorn's stuff. I'll make sure to put a link on the episode so you can go check it out. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.